We're just about probably the beginnings of being live. So hello, we're saying hello here to everybody out on Facebook and YouTube, and then let's let in our friends. Got a good size audience today. That's awesome. Okay. Hello. Hello. We'll see them start streaming in here. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Piano Tech Radio Hour. It's going to be a fun one. Glad to see you once again. We're officially well into 2023. Although I've probably had 3 or 4 different bugs this year so far already through my 5-year-old and all the things, it's like, it's actually kind of nice to just kind of get sick and get better. And it's, we're well past the world of kind of scary diseases rolling around, haunting us. So that's nice. But the advantage of that moment in our history is this program kind of grew out of the pandemic, and that's been very exciting. So what I'll do here up front, I'm gonna highlight my own video here quickly, and then I will highlight the video of our guest as well, and then I'll give an intro to what's going on. So just in case you're out there in internet land and you're watching on Facebook or something like that, and you go, what are these guys doing? What's going on here? Let's tell you about that. So what you are tuned into right now is Piano Tech Radio Hour. And what we do is gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world, including manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And now let me introduce our guest for today. I'll do a quick check and make sure we don't have anybody in the waiting room ready to pop in. And we're good to go on that front. So our guest today is Oliver, and actually I didn't get the pronunciation on this. Esmond, did you just say Esmond or Esmonde, or how does that pronounced?
Esmond White.
Esmond White, right. Oliver Esmond White. Oliver's been a piano technician for over 50 years and was the last Canadian to study at the Baldwin Factory. He was also the first North American to attend the Yamaha Piano Technical Academy in 1986. As a rebuilder and concert technician, Oliver has been involved in thousands of recordings, audio and televised. From universities to the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, from Yamaha Canada to music schools and festivals, Oliver has worked hard to share his expertise. But working alone, he felt a glass ceiling and needed to do something for his struggling industry. To make a difference, Oliver started researching the history of the piano industry, and he found some valuable information. His shop has been described as the most modern in Canada, perhaps North America, by Yamaha Canada. His interests are everything to do with the piano industry that innovates. If it's being done correctly already, that's great. But now let's explore the future and making the instrument more perfect. His concert rental business is believed to be the largest in Canada. And today we're going to be talking about some of the innovations that Oliver is pushing to introduce into the piano industry. And we'll talk through, some of his studies of what's going on and what he thinks the future may hold here. So welcome to the program, Oliver. It's great to have you here on Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Great. Well, so let's dive in here, and we got kind of an overview of your history, and so that's good. We've got a background there. I want to talk a little bit more just to keep people get a foundation of what you do and where you're coming from business wise. So when did you start to shift from being kind of a one-man show to having a workshop or multiple people, or trying to do bigger type of things that require multiple people, like having a moving operation and things like that. How did that evolve?
Um, I'm a kind of like a lot of piano technicians. I like to gripe about things, complain, and one of the things I ran into over many years as a concert tuner is when pianos were delivered, for example, a day like today, where it's literally minus 40, the piano would arrive for the concert. It had been in a truck overnight. It was going to play with the Montreal Symphony Orchestra, and I was supposed to tune it in an hour. And it was still a block of ice, and it arrived late in the snowstorm. And I mean, everything would go wrong, and it would drive me crazy because the movers didn't care. The people that rented it didn't care. Nothing, nobody cared. And I kept on complaining. And finally somebody said, and I have taken it on as one of my dictums, stop complaining, do better. So with that in mind, I purchased and modified a truck, which I winterized and heated. I bought clavier rollers from France, which are piano moving things, the only two of their kind in North America. And now one person alone can deliver a concert piano to a venue. And while a few people laughed when I did it, it's the mainstay of my business at this point. We rent probably 15 or 20 pianos out per month. It's really a wonderful little business without too much money going out. Lots seems to come in.
That's great. Yeah. And kudos to you for kind of building something in the piano industry, from nothing as well, right? Some people have their, family business that's been growing and they take it on, and that's its own challenge, of course, moving that into the next century. But it's a big deal to build something from scratch and make it significant. And also kudos for, along the way, doing it in a way where you're trying to maintain your passion for, sort of the highest levels of performance, or, maintaining high standards and how things are executed. Because as you said, you might look around yourself and nobody else seems to care. So why should I, right? And that takes a lot of effort as well, in both internal and external.
Yeah. And simultaneously to that, I saw that the big stores were getting bigger, and the small mums and pops piano stores were kind of being phased out. And that really bothered me as well, because I like the grassroots side of our industry. And I felt it was a big mistake to centralize, which was what was going on, the sale of pianos, and get away from the local stores and the local technicians. It seemed to be going big because it was easier. And that kind of stuck in my craw. And I did a study over many years, which the statistics are there. We've lost 90% of our industry in the last 50 years. So, imagine if we had kept going the way we were. There's many reasons for that, but I don't believe those reasons have been properly explored. And we could have given up on the piano industry and said, well, it's just natural. But how come, for example, some countries have gone from having no history of piano playing to having 40 or 50 million piano players there? What are they seeing that we're not seeing? And I think that there's something to be explored, which points us back in the direction of how to resuscitate our industry in North America and Europe. So those are things that fascinate me. And part of it is education, of course, for kids, etc. But it's also education for piano technicians. How do we transfer knowledge? How do we set up shops? And if you're all by yourself, well, there's not much future in our industry as far as I'm concerned. So those were the things that deeply concerned me. And to try and cut that Gordian knot, I actually wrote a bit of a vision statement. And I started looking around to find people that were doing what I thought should be done. And I ran across somebody by the name of Daryl Fandrick. And I think most piano technicians in the know who he is. And I invited myself to his place and became one of his disciples. So that was got me going on research and development to a big degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was mentioning to you, I didn't specifically research this, but I believe you've kind of come into the conversation before. We did have Heather Fandrick on the program at one point, and it was kind of a moment where we said, hey, we should watch one of Oliver's videos. He's really passionate about this stuff. He's gonna, he could explain something well. I believe that we can catch that in a previous episode. But so you've not only become interested in this, but you're sort of working to even develop the technology further. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the process? When did you start moving from sort of being fascinated with the technology that had been built to, hey, I want to try to innovate as well? I see you've got some, additive manufacturing, test prototypes going on over there, and so when did it move into sort of getting your own skin in the game and trying to sort of innovate and modify?
The first thing I did was to try and make Darrell's parts. Of course, he knew about it. And my employees were working on it. And it's pretty hard to make springs and rails and do all of that stuff. And we got into it in our quote unquote spare time. There goes your Christmas holidays and anything else. But I think a lot of piano technicians know what I'm talking about. You go down a rabbit hole and you find yourself down there and you run around for a while before you pop back out. We made them, and we actually had some success copying what he was doing. But my employees told me, and they were pretty good employees, they trained in Europe. They came to me one day and said, if you make us do this one more time, we quit. So that was
that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And, yeah. Well, I mean, kudos for actually like saying that and not just quitting, right? Yeah. Sometimes you can wear down your associates and employees so much that they just disappear one day and you go, oh, what happened?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of funny because, I kind of passed the work on to them that I didn't want to do, which was kind of adjusting the springs. And, some of the results of what we were doing were wonderful, but the process was awful. So I didn't want to give up on it. And we had sent Darrell's action off to be studied in Belgium. There's a place, the University Catholique de Louvain in Belgium, that does the most advanced analysis of piano actions in the world. They use a program called something Tron. I forget the name. Anyway, and it's 26 pages of algorithms, and they can do all of the analysis, and they back it up with high-speed photography. And Darrell's action turned out to be, depending on which of the 3 or 4 most important parameters, somewhere between 250 and 350% better than the traditional upright. And in fact, in many cases, in many ways, outperforms mechanically, not for sound, mechanically outperforms grand pianos. So that kind of stuck me in okay, this isn't just my imagination mode. Now we have to do something about making it more realistic for doing in the workshop and bringing to piano technicians and manufacturers. Because the manufacturers and technicians knew about what Darrell was doing, he patented it, but nobody could do what he was doing. It was just way too difficult.
Now, just to interrupt there, when you say it's a certain percent better, maybe we can define that a little bit more deeply. It has to do with the repetition capability, like how fast you can repeat a note? Is that what we're talking about? Or where does that number get calculated from?
There are 3 or 4 numbers. One is where the note repeats from the bottom of the key. So a regular upright would be about 6 millimeters from the bottom. And the whole thing is about 10 millimeters. So you have to go up 60%. The grand piano, you have to go up 40% or 4 millimeters roughly. And Darrell's was under 3. So it's better than a grand piano and way better than an upright. So the sloppiness of fingers. So that's one thing. The repetition went up 350%. But I mean, I don't really, well, that's impressive. It doesn't mean anything because nobody can play that fast anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
The system of a regular upright is what's described as chaotic. And you play it one time and then the same thing another time, or slightly vary, and you don't get the same result. You don't get a predictable result with uprights. So the types of tone you can build with an upright is something like 7 reliable volumes. A grand piano, something like 21 per note, of course, and then Daryl's was 23. So again, the potential for tone was there. Once again, you have the limitations of the soundboard, the strings, the sound, all of the rest of it in a grand piano, which takes it away. But the thing that strikes me the most is the pianissimo in his pianos. You've got a full range of piano, and there is no way you can reliably play an upright piano really quietly. And that's where his piano, as far as I'm concerned, really shows off, is the range of tone starting from where you really want it.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And so as you get into sort of developing things, you said, I don't know if we actually got into it, you said your employees were getting kind of tired of the adjustment level of it. And I think that was sort of beginning to answer this question of your own innovations. And so that's kind of where that's going, right? You're trying to make it so, yes, this works really great. It's got this incredible advantage over maybe even grand pianos and some functions. But it takes a lot of extra work. It might make people sick trying to actually like adjust it or something like that, right? So what you're working on, as far as I can tell, is making it friendlier to, adjustment and a technician to kind of achieve that perfection relatively easily. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should probably skip to a video. First of all, it's me saying how wonderful it is, but there's a video on YouTube available to everybody. There's 4 musicians there, but I think if we just cut to the 4th one, it's a musician who's a professor at the University of Montreal. He's a classical, but also a jazz musician. So we'll start there and you'll get an idea of what the sound is in these uprights.
Right. Yeah. Let's take a look at that one. Tell me if the full screen looks okay on this, and then I'll hit play. Oh, wait, that's not the one. Just a second. Let me hit the right video. This is the one. We'll go for it full screen and we'll hit play.
I'm not hearing much volume.
Do you hear it though?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
The best upright pianos that I know don't hold a candle to a grand piano. I'd say the best upright that I know is a 3, where any grand piano would be a 10. And so this action is bringing the best upright piano, or any upright piano, up right into that range where it rivals a grand piano. I would say that this particular instrument, with the action in it, this is now a 10. This is now a 10 out of 10 for me. It rivals any grand piano that I would play on any stage, anywhere, in any hall. I can play those very, very soft chords and have total control over the, let's say, the atmosphere, the volume. I can create a string section on an upright piano where I'm not just plunking notes like a typewriter. You think of an upright piano where you have just like clunk, 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 each note at one note at a time. But here I can really think of this as being a kind of like a low cellos, or the string section, and really get the full sound of some of those nice thick chords, right?
It's the piano, but it's the action as well, right?
It's definitely the action that's allowing me to access that, for sure. It's the interface, the point of first contact between the musician and the instrument is the action, is the interface. It's the actual notes that you press down to get the sound. And so you want to have that interface you want to have that membrane as thin as possible. You want to have direct access to the sound. And so, as I was saying in a previous comment about kind of trying to overcome sometimes the mechanics of old clunky pianos, this has none of that. This is, I feel like I'm bowing these strings. I feel like I'm playing this instrument, and it's really the action that's allowing me to do that.
All right, great. Should we move away from?
Oh, the first day that we
let's make
signed.
sure we get an
Yeah,
ad in there. Let's see here. Stop share. That's a good time to stop. All right. Did you want to go to another video? The volume came through a bit better, right? I was able to tweak it a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think then what you'll see in the next video is what the Fandrick is versus the traditional. So that's the second video that's on our channel.
Okay.
We put up yesterday.
Okay.
We've been hiding these until today. We have a whole bunch of videos that are kind of out there but aren't yet public.
Right. Yeah, and we can share the channel link as well. Before we go to the next video, we have a question from Morgan. Morgan says, how long are those hammer shanks? Is there a large difference in hammer shank length in those pianos from a traditional upright?
No, they're about 9.2 millimeters long. What's the shank part? This part. From what I can get, they're just an ordinary 132 upright. We didn't modify them, but what makes them look long is because there's no hammer rest rail. So if you look at it, we can use a hammer rest rail. I would recommend one, but you don't need one.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, you and I had gone over that, and it was easy for me to kind of pick that out. I think for someone who isn't used to that, it's going, yeah, there's something about that. There's something strange about how that looks, right? But yeah, maybe when we play some of these other videos, people can get a sense of what's going on there. So let me pull up this next one. So this is kind of Fandrick action versus traditional. I'm just setting up the quality level and making sure it's good. And then I will get the screen share going, and we'll try to make sure the volume's good again as well. So this is it. We'll go full screen. We'll boost that volume so it comes through well.
This is a Renner traditional action, and this is a Fandrick traditional action. The first thing you can notice, just putting your fingers on it, is as you release here, sometimes it plays, but if your finger doesn't come up all the way, no playing, as opposed to the Fandrick. And you can also hear the dynamic range is very, very wide compared to this one. In the traditional action, the bridle wire, the bridle strap, and the jack spring disappear entirely. As well as that, all of the configuration, the butt configuration, is changed for a grand knuckle. The weak hammer return spring is changed for a very robust hammer return spring. And above all else, there is a jack repetition spring added.
So
Great.
then those are the differences. And then the next video will describe to you what that jack spring does. So the repetition spring does. No, that's not that one.
Yeah, let's make sure we're at that one. Okay. This one, repetition mechanism, right? Okay, great. Let's pull that one up. Make sure we get a good quality level as well. Go full screen and hit that one.
The genius of the Fandrick action is to be found here. The jack repetition spring, which pushes the jack underneath the knuckle and the hammer forward at the same time to reset exactly as in a grand piano.
So that's the good part.
This is
Oh,
No, go ahead.
so that's what, in fact, I have that right behind me, that model, those two of those models, and then I've added a third one if anybody wants to take a close up. But from there, we spread out to try and solve the problems for a piano technician or my employees, so I didn't lose anybody. And try and bring this absolutely amazing work that Daryl did over something like 35 years. By the way, I should probably mention a few other people like Chris Crevelis, who was in part worked on the first patent, and Daryl brought out another patent in 2014. And we've now patented we have 5 inventions from our shop now at this point, which you'll now see. So in the
next video. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Let's bring that up. So
and what we do is we're making a new hammer return rail, which I will explain to you. And how do you make a rail? It's like, who has ever made a rail? I mean, it's, you have to be a little bit crazy, which many of us are. So maybe there's lots.
We're all crazy. That's fine. We've definitely got a loony bin here. We can certifiable. Yeah.
But this is how we decided to come up with a rail, because it has to be variable for different models, etc. So you'll see what we've come up with, which is very simple. My 5-year-old granddaughter is now featured. First day.
Excellent. All right, let's pull this one up. Again, we'll make sure we got a good quality level. Bring the volume up. Overall volume, we'll push that and go full screen.
the difficulty of manufacturing this action is to be able to mass produce it quickly and easily. The torsion spring, to get at it, you have to get your fingers and either squeeze or push and bend this little wire. And the same thing, somehow get your fingers behind here and then pull this or push this to get the correct tension. So we had to come up with solutions, and that's where we hired Francis.
Notre défi d'ingénierie était de créer un ensemble de composantes destinées au réusinage d'un piano droit. Facile à installer, facile à maintenir, robuste, mais surtout un ensemble qui nous permet d'accompagner le piano tout le long de sa durée de vie. Pour solutionner cette situation, nous avons créé deux nouvelles composantes. Le bloc modulaire de retour et puis le nouvel contre-attrape permet de reproduire les effets que le levier de répétition ont dans le piano à queue.
So that's what we've done. We made those two blocks, and I can show you some configurations of those blocks right now. This one we 3D printed, which is very similar to the Fandrick bot, but we 3D printed these, and these have rings on them. And these rings are, there's a screw adjustment, and you'll see how that all works. We're busy working on injection molding right now for this kind of stuff.
Great. So the 3D printing is kind of for prototyping, and then once you get the correct model down, that's just something that can be manufactured in mass. Yeah.
Correct.
Got it. And which one did you want to go to next? Was that your granddaughter figuring out how to make this all work? Okay.
Yeah, cool. How the things work, and I'll show you that stuff.
All right, cool. Let's bring that up 1 second. And get to share mode. All right. Volume's not as important on this one, but here we go.
What the Esmond White vertical action adds to the Fandrick vertical action is a quick adjustment. So for example, the weight, the down weight, right now I have 60 grams and 55 grams. The 60 grams does not go down. I turn a screw and voila, it does. And here with 55 grams, it does not go down. But again, by turning the screw, I can get the adjustment to within a gram of it being correct. And here at 50 grams, it does not go down. That's one thing. The second thing is the repetition spring adjustment, which we want to look very similar to a grand piano. A little bit faster than that as it advances towards the string. So what I will do is I will tighten this set screw, which pushes on the tension, the torsion spring. And now it's way too fast. So you can see that the range of adjustment is absolutely wonderful. I will ease it off just a little bit. And now it's almost perfect. There we are. So we have a range of adjustment that is easy.
Il suffit d'un tour de vis pour reproduire la force gravitationnelle désirée.
So that gives you an idea of, with a screwdriver, not particularly difficult screwdriver. This is one of the tools that you might need, the only one you won't have in your tool case right now. And it's not particularly complicated. It costs $3 on Amazon, and it's good for set screws in actions. And you can adjust both the down weight and the repetition spring weight to precision within a gram.
And it's like, is that a hex configuration in terms of the head of it? Yeah.
Really basic, we tried to keep it as simple as possible. Daryl did a wonderful job of simplifying the action. He didn't make an action more complicated. He made it simpler. And what Daryl did was he took Erard's principles of the hammer pushing down on a knuckle here into the whippen, and then underneath the key pushing up. So essentially the whippen is a bit of the meat in the sandwich. He did that. So the keys are weighted, front weighted, and the hammer pushes exactly with the gravitational forces of a grand piano down. So you're doing that compression thing. What makes the repetition work in a grand piano is a butterfly spring. It's not the lever, it's the spring. So he put in exactly a butterfly spring to do the same things. There are a whole bunch of principles like that he identified and then applied to the upright piano. And one of the reasons, one of the things he told me was that he wanted to do this with the technology from the 19th century, which could prove that it could have been done back there, but our ancestors didn't get to it. But he actually did something that could have been done 150 years ago. However, what we're doing couldn't have been done 150 years ago because we're using composite materials.
You said, why handicap ourselves?
Yeah, really.
Right. I mean, that's there's advantages and disadvantages to those different types of thinking, of course, but liken it to, the debate that has become less and less of a debate around using electronic tuning devices, right? It's, now most people will acknowledge there's many benefits to using that, but then you can also acknowledge that if you can tune a piano without an electronic tuning device, you will have developed a higher level of skill at piano tuning, right? Yeah, very interesting stuff. I think as I'm watching those adjustments and thinking about, encountering one of these pianos in the field, how often did those adjustments that you just showed or how often are they required? You know, is this something you would do at every visit? Is it something that would happen every couple of years? Is it seasonal? When do those adjustments get made?
I've had one piano out for about 6 years now, 7 years. Have yet to adjust it. Just the capstans, which is exactly the same thing I would do. It's being used for concerts every 2 or 3 weeks, so on weekends. It's getting a little bit of playing, but nothing abusive. We sent out another piano to the Conservatoire where it gets played probably a few hours a day, and it has had no adjustments in over a year. We just sent it out about a year ago. Daryl did some testing, and he said that he put 3 actions in: a grand, the traditional upright, and his, and put them in a pounder. And I'm going to be doing this test myself through we have an agency here, the CRIC, which is in Canada. We have lots of help for these things, to study things and make sure we don't get into hot water in our industries. So, but he did this. He put the pounder on it and let it go. The first one to break down was the traditional upright. The second one to break down was the grand, and his lasted longer. Now, I have to duplicate those in a scientific setting to talk about it, as okay, we've done the tests and here they are. But it makes some sense when I think about it.
Can you talk about the process of kind of collaborating with institutions and experimentalists and things like this? Is this something that just amounts to calling someone up and having a conversation, or does it become expensive? I mean, you don't have to share all the details of your business, but I think it might. I've been a researcher myself, right? So I kind of know that side of it. I mean, I have to say there were figures who came into our lab from externally and encouraged us to do certain types of research, around, there's a bird song we were researching, and at the same time, you've got your own trajectory in research, and somebody comes in and says, hey, let's start working on this. You go, no, thanks. So what's that process been like for you in sort of getting research involved?
First of all, I wouldn't have any patents at all if I didn't have an innovation counselor in the federal government. So we've been doing research before I ever came up with any of these patent ideas. And they're there to try and help us in productivity and help us move our piano business into this century from a previous century. So we were already taking courses in innovation. And over the Christmas holidays one year, I wanted to improve this system. And first thing in January, I called her up and I told her how excited I was. And she said, is this patentable? And I said, no, it's not patentable. Nothing is patentable in pianos. They've been around for 300 years. She said, are you sure? Has somebody actually done what you've just done in pianos? And maybe not. So the government actually paid for the study to see if it was patentable. It said, look, am I going to spend $10,000? No, but they did that and they found out it was patentable. And all of a sudden, I couldn't talk to anybody, take a picture, show it. I had to shut my mouth, which is exactly what I don't like doing, and get on with the entire process of patenting, which is hugely expensive. But to do that, you want to, I'd already sent, as I mentioned, Daryl's action off to Europe. I'm a bit of a stickler for making sure that I'm on the right track. So I consult with as many people that are professionals as I can, whether they're material scientists, engineers, chemists, you name it. I'm going to try to find out who is really good in when I have a question, and make sure that when I do something, it's not a red herring that, oh, I didn't think of that. You give it to the specialist and they'll think of that. For example, somebody told me, well, have you done tests at plus 50 and minus 50 degrees? Well, if your piano goes into Arizona in a truck in the summer, what's going to happen to the parts you're manufacturing? Or in Winnipeg in Canada in the winter, so you have to get through all of those things, do all the tests, etc. And I certainly could not even think of asking all the questions. So you have to, if you're reasonably serious, you want to talk to professionals, scientists, and they'll put you on the right track or set you straight. And then of course there's musicians and piano technicians who also have to go through it, including apprentices. It's like Daryl could do what he was doing, but nobody else could. Well, that's no good. So you have to be able to get it done so that it's easy for anybody. So that's why a wide consultation of specialists as well as regular folks is important in my book. Really a lot of consultation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's step back a little bit maybe and talk about some of the other things that are going on. In the future, we'll have you back and maybe do a tour of your workshop or something like that. Like we said in the bio, it's been lauded and I got to see a little bit of it on a call the other day. Well organized and just kind of like seems very efficient and not like every other workshop you might see. Can you say a few words about, I guess, number one, the first moments of having a workshop, right? Some of us out here, haven't had a workshop. New York City is where I had a lot of business, right? And then like the thought of just having a workshop, it's like, even just renting an apartment is a risk, right? Because you have to keep paying the rent on where you're going to live, right? But to have a space that's industrial where you can do work and, potentially like a storefront or something like that, it's a lot of responsibility. So what were your first experiences of having a shop space, and then how did that grow into kind of perfecting it into what you have right now?
My first workshop, I closed down in the early 80s. And then I was living out of the suitcase in the back of my car and of course my garage as a workshop. And about 15 years ago, I rented a small apartment, bachelor, right near where I lived. And I had a larger area to work. And I started working with Daryl at that point. And then I moved into a pretty nice place, which I designed and got a lot of it right, but a lot of it wrong. And over the last 3 years, again, from the help I've had, industrial engineers came in and architects, and we moved our shop and applied the principles that were given to us for efficiencies through the industrial engineers. There were a couple of theses done on our business for how to set up a workshop. Just the thought processes, and it's made, and then of course the architects made it beautiful, and it's nothing like a dark 19th century space. It's absolutely stunning as far as I'm concerned. It's a joy to come to work rather than being sent to a dusty dark hole.
Yeah. You're making me remember a little bit back. You mentioned something about like taking courses in innovation or something like this. Tell me more about that. Was that through an academic institution? You sounded like it was somehow affiliated with the government. What was that all about, and how much time was involved, and how did you come across that opportunity?
At one point, we were doing research and development, and there's something called crédit d'impôt. I don't know what it is in English. I forget the name. But if you do research and development, you get money back in taxes. I had no idea of this, none whatsoever. I was just doing research and development on my own. And one day my accountant at the end of the year said, this looks like research and development. Why don't you find somebody to apply for you who knows how to fill in those papers and get some money back for what you're doing. So that put me on that trail. We found somebody, and sure enough, we got a sizable check come back from the government for doing research and development. And on the strength of that, we were given an innovation counselor, because those research and development means you're you're doing something in innovation. And she was the one who, an engineer, she was the one who kept tracks of us and suggested that we had something that was patentable. I can pick her up exactly right, pick up the phone and call her on a Saturday afternoon, and she will answer. We have absolutely amazing services for this. And she then fast-tracked our company. We're one of the 80 companies last year that was fast-tracked for expansion in Canada. So most of them are all kind of doing widgets and modern things. And here I am, this kind of Neanderthal throwback, but they seem to think that the potential for our action, amongst other things that we have cooking, is, they call it a disruptive technology. When you have something that's 250 to 300% better at the same price, well, you're going to probably be able to license it, and maybe the government will make some money back. And so that's why they're as kind to me as they are, but they're very helpful.
Yes. Wow, that's great. Yeah. And of course, you're making Canada sound perhaps, I dare say, more exciting than the greatest country on the planet, the United States. But I'm sure we have something similar going on. but just to remind the viewer, I can tell Carl Lieberman's laugh. He's laughing about that. But yeah, that's wonderful. It's wonderful to hear about that. And just to remind the viewer, you're located in Canada. So these type of grants, if you wanted them, or these type of kind of opportunities are in Canada, although there may be similar things available in the United States, let's hope. But tell people about where you're located and kind of the range and also where you operate, because I know you do moving and, so where are you located and where do you operate in terms of all the business you do?
Well, we're pretty close to the downtown core of Montreal. We're in something called the Mile End in Montreal, about, a few hundred yards away from the best bagel shops in the world. Plug for them. So it's easy to get fat around here. Just drop by them and pick up some cream cheese and
wait, you're competing with the United States now and New York City on bagels, which is not very far off.
No, Ethan, no, you don't know what a bagel is until you come to Montreal.
Oh, Carl, you have anything to say about that? Nope. Okay, all right. Go on. So you're in Montreal. That's where you're in operations, and yeah, continue.
A building here, there's about 4,000 people work in the building. It's huge. And part of it is set aside for startups and cultural startups. So there's about 400 to 600 people that work in cultural startups or cultural businesses in this building, along with people, insurance companies and Ubisoft who make software. So this is a dynamic, this is the creation zone of Montreal.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really a cool, trendy kind of neighborhood.
And also, are you moving cross country? Is it mostly local to the city of Montreal? Where are you operating?
We're within a day's drive, and again, our tuning stuff. There's so much in Montreal. We just hang around here most of the time, but we'll occasionally venture and put our toenails outside of the province, but we're not really international at all.
Right. And we're talking about your moving business, but I see in my notes here, you have a rental business as well. How has that evolved? Did that start? I know Wayne has told us this story, I think, Wayne Ferguson, of just, somebody needed a piano one day and he rented it. And then he was like, wow, this is good dough. I'm going to buy another piano. So is that how you came upon this sort of rental business or similarly, or how did you get into that?
No, I'm more curmudgeonly than Wayne. He's a nice guy. I came through it, as I mentioned right at the beginning, by complaining because I had to take care of a concert, high-end. Okay. And this just happened time and time again, that nobody seemed to care about the rentals. They just wanted to make the money, and it just really bothered me. So I did the research necessary. I've been working in festivals, and I knew that pianos didn't go out of tune from the moving. They went out of tune from the temperature changes
Right.
and humidity changes. But a grand piano, I could move from one cathedral in the summer to another in a different city. The piano, if it left in tune, it got there in tune. If it left out of tune, it got there out of tune. You know, that's one of the myths that we have is pianos. Maybe uprights is a little different, but certainly grand pianos don't go out of tune because of the moving. They go out of tune because of other factors. So we based our business out of getting a piano in and out of the truck, heated, properly tuned and maintained before it left. We show up on stage and we show up, and 20 minutes later, our truck is gone and the piano is ready for rehearsal. No time lost.
So there's a bunch of, we have less than 10 minutes left, and there's plenty we could talk about. So, we'll have you back soon. We'll do a masterclass coming up here. But I think in choosing what to talk about next, just the natural flow of this, can you talk about, deciding that you want to do things at a certain level and how you think about that in terms of profitability, right? Because I can sit there and be like at a piano for an entire day trying to get it regulated, I want this, I want that note, even better, even better, even better, right? I know a lot of us have that in us, that sense of perfection and high quality, but I guess there's the age-old story of somebody who worked on a rebuild for months, and they finally sold that beautiful piano that they put their heart and soul into, and they realized they made about 50 cents an hour on the job or something, right? So how do you think about, introducing sort of these extras, the bonus, the things that people don't typically do, and doing it in a cost-effective way? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, again, my biggest guidepost, I think, was John Rhodes and Daryl Fandrick. They asked the question, does it affect the touch? Does it affect the sound? Those are the two guideposts, other than, of course, your eyes, but that are the most important. When we're working on uprights, in this case, we're so far away from the traditional upright and what you could expect from it that, my goodness, you're improving 90% of pianos on the planet are uprights. So if you can improve that number of uprights by a factor, not by 5% or looking for 1%, on one note, you're just overall blowing that piano into a different league. That's really important. Second thing is we have the rebuilding process now under 30 hours. And we're hoping to get it under 20 hours for a complete rebuilding of an action. And it should not cost, the kits will cost well under $2,000, which means that there's a rebuilding job for an upright. Probably people are charging $4,500, who knows? So there's a few $1,000s to be made for less than a week's work. So that is, of course, one of my major considerations. Piano technicians, it has to be simple, it has to be efficient, and it has to make money, and it has to have a major impact. We've hit all of those points really, really well. Now we're working on the transfer of knowledge from us to other piano technicians, and we're doing an entire series of step-by-step videos, which will come with what we hope to be able to produce within the next, certainly in the next quarter, if not this quarter, at the end of next quarter. We should have kits that will be available that will be everything that is needed to convert a piano and put it in and make money. So that's what we're looking at. Okay,
great. Well, yeah, like I said, I've got plenty more questions. I think we could probably do half or whole session on your idea of like how the piano industry can thrive. It sounded like you have some very strong opinions about that. But that having been said, you're reminding me, and I don't even know what the avenues are right now, but I'd like to give you the opportunity to share. Is there a way that the technicians out here in the audience can get involved with this right now? Like you mentioned, kind of doing a rebuild. Basically, you're saying taking this style of action, putting it in an existing piano is what you mean, right?
Yeah.
And is this something? And this is something that anybody, that's watching now could get into doing? And is it just a matter of reaching out to you and saying, hey, I'd like to try this on a client piano? Like, what's the process? Is that what we're talking about?
That's pretty much what we're talking about. It's a little bit of a new process. If you're an experienced piano technician and know how to regulate, rebuild a grand piano, etc., it'll be very simple. If you're not advanced, I would suggest strongly that you find a mentor and go through the process of rebuilding with a mentor and go through it that way. We're expecting to sometime this summer have courses that we'll offer here in Montreal, and hopefully I'll get a hold of some teachers around North America. We're already up and running a little bit in Europe, but we hope to encourage piano technicians to give these kinds of courses right around the country. It's the kind of technology, as they say, it's a disruptive technology. It's not expensive. The results are just amazing, and we're just working on making it so that it's really simple and accessible to all piano technicians. So it doesn't take a huge shop, but of course you need a piano tilter and some Forstner bits, put in do some key weighting. If you don't have a workshop, well, again, get together with some other people and share those things. I think I'm advocating for piano technicians to get together and work not as lone wolves, which is what I was for 35 years, but to start thinking of using your force together and becoming make our industry great again.
Awesome. Sounds great. I won't make a comment on that.
Me neither.
Make our industry great again. All right, but I will just see if we have. Judy said. Judy said it gave her a little banter about Canada and the United States, yeah. but subconsciously. But yeah, Judy said she'd like this for her Baldwin. Johan said, "Thank you, Oliver. Exciting topic. One approach that affects both tone and touch is worth promoting and made more known to the end user, the teacher, students, recording studios, and all those relying on upright pianos." I did have a comment from Alan Eder over there in California. Can't tell you how delighted he is that you're carrying the torch from Daryl with this action. He has 3 Fandrick uprights in his care and can tell you that while the action was an exciting breakthrough, he would have stood shoulder to shoulder with your employees concerning the challenges of regulating the earlier designs. So some support for what we've talked about already today. Celia, Carl Lieberman says, thank you, cutting edge. Celia says, wow, very exciting. Can't wait to learn more about this. Excellent. So I'll walk us off here. It's been a great hour. And again, Oliver, you and I have been talking. We'll talk more about having you back soon. Without further ado, though, I'll just kind of walk off the episode. We've reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thanks to Oliver for joining us today as well. We're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. And those of you that join us today by signing up just for this session, you can make your life more convenient. You can subscribe to PTRH at just $16 a month. You get the recording of today's session in our member area and automatic registration for each week's new session. The link for that is pianoTechniciansMasterclass.com/PTRH-direct access. And I will quickly add that link as well. We're still streaming out there on Facebook and YouTube. I'll add that for folks that are out there in internet land as well. And then we'll just simply sign off here. Make sure that that's out. Yeah.
Feel free to share my email.
Yep. Sounds good. I shared your email and your YouTube link in the chat in Zoom, but you know what? Let me grab those. And the email is oliver@pianoew.com. I'll make sure that I get that out on the social channels as well. I'm putting that in right now. And then I'll also give a link to that YouTube. Let me find out where I put that. Yeah.
And I'd like to give a shout out to the technicians who hung around. Thank you. Hope to
yes.
meet you all sometime. I'm honored that you took your time to listen to this. So thank you.
Excellent. Yes, we're privileged to have such a wonderful, dedicated audience here, and those folks that can't usually show up but jumped in today. We appreciate that as well. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week. It's been fun. Talk to you later.